Hey everyone, it's Lexi. So in today's video, I'm going to be sharing with you all the books that I ended up reading in the month of February. So I was actually pleasantly surprised with how many books I read. I read 4, and that's pretty good considering February it's like a shorter month, and I was a bit ambitious with my TBR back a couple weeks ago. I think I had like 5 books on there. I got to 4 of them, so I was pretty pleased about that. But like when I was at home, it was just crazy. I ended up getting a residency position, so I'm very happy about that, and I don't have to stress out about everything. But most of my time has been spent around crocheting these owls for I'm going to be graduating in April, so I'm doing crocheting all of these for my classmates and then my teachers as well. So I have to do 25. So this has been taking up most of my time, but yeah, like I said, I read 4 books here. I think there's 2 that I really enjoyed, and I did do a reading vlog so you can see kind of my reading experience there. And we had a big snowstorm, which you can go and check out. I'll link up in the card so you can go and check that out. So without further ado, let's get started. So this first book that I ended up reading this month was by A Curse and a Charm, and I was sent this book for free in exchange for an honest review. So this was like the first time I've been contacted by a publisher to kind of do this, so I was really excited. And basically the premise of it is about a girl who gets cursed at a circus essentially, and so she is basically the one who has to bear the curse and the charm. So essentially, in a sense, like everyone who lives in or is a part of the circus doesn't get old, they don't get sick, and so in exchange for that, she's the one who has to bear the curse. So she loses feelings, she basically becomes like a porcelain doll, and so it's her goal to kind of break that curse. And I did find the plot to be very interesting, except the author used like really strange like words that I don't know if she was trying to be cool or not, but like it was just like made me roll my eyes. Like I was like I don't think I've heard anyone ever, like if you go check out my review, I think I mentioned some of them, but it was just like it was just really weird the way she did it. I did find the story to be unique, but I just wasn't like, it was very predictable. I didn't think it was anything special. I gave it like a 2.5 to 3 out of 5 stars. It was okay. But it wasn't my favorite, and I think there were a lot of flaws in it. It didn't stand out in my eyes. There were a lot of like tropes in there, and it was very predictable in just how it was all gonna play out. And yeah, like I said, some parts of it made me roll my eyes, so it was an okay book. I wouldn't recommend it, but yeah, it was something different. Next, I ended up reading Sapience by Yuval Noah Harari, and I was really excited. You obviously know I've been talking about this book for a while, and I finally picked it up. This is the one that I read. I actually read like the last 300 pages in one sitting, which you can see in my reading vlog. But yeah, it basically chronicles all of human evolution and how we evolved to be the humans that we see today. And I think going into it, I thought it would be more kind of the fossil record base, but the way the author chose to go from it was more cultural, just in terms of like social constructs and all of that stuff. And like I said, I prefer the fossil record, like physical anthropology, over like cultural, and that's just my opinion. But I think the author did a really good job at writing it in a way where it wasn't like a textbook, and it was readable, and it wasn't like reading anything for school, which I really enjoyed. And there was a lot of things in there that I really like. It was like, oh yeah, that makes total sense, and like, oh yeah, I totally agree with that. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. Trying to think what else. I think the only like con is that he does spend like more than enough time on religion, and it just got to the point where it was like, yeah, okay, I get it, religion is important, and I like kind of skipped that section because he kept doing like going off on like tangent stories, and I was like, this is enough. Like, I'm not a big religious person, and I understand the significance that it's had and like just how our society is set up, but I was just like, okay, I get it. But other than that, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars, despite kind of my critique with the religion section. But overall, I really enjoyed it, and I had a lot of fun reading it. Next, I then listened to the audiobook of 1+1 by Jojo Moyes, and this is one where I had on my shelf, and I was tired of looking at it, and I was like, okay, I just need to decide if it's one I want to keep and one I want to get rid of, because I did do an unhaul when I was going home. That was one I listened to on audiobook, and it was okay. Like, I liked it a little bit better than The Last Letter from Your Lover, which I did find problematic, and this one I did find problematic as well. The kind of premise of it is about a single mother who's trying to get her daughter into kind of a prestigious math school, and she doesn't have enough money to do so. So she, like, the daughter goes to a math Olympiad to use the money that would go towards her tuition, and when she's there, she kind of cross paths with this very rich man and goes off from there. And I had a really big problem with the main character in here. She was very ditzy, like, you know, people that are just like so optimistic and smile so much, but they're like really daft. Like, that's how she came off to me. And she did some of the things that she does in here like made me cringe, and I was like, oh my gosh, like, I felt uncomfortable reading it just because it was like just the way she did things. It just was really uncomfortable. And yeah, I didn't really like this one. I think, in my opinion, Me Before You and The Girl You Left Behind are my favorite books. I don't really like any of her other ones, which is disappointing. But yeah, I didn't really like this one. I gave it like a 2.5 to 3 out of 5 stars. It was like a nice fluffy read, but it was just like some parts made me cringe. Lastly, this month I ended up reading the Tales and Teacups book club pick for January and February, which was The House at Riverton by Kate Morton. And at this moment I have like 1 episode left of Downton Abbey. So I'm probably going to finish it before the month is up, and I have like 15 minutes left in the 8th episode. So I'm going through like slowly like withdrawal for Downton Abbey. And so this one, like I read it at the perfect time essentially. So it follows a girl named Grace, who's kind of an elderly woman who's nearing the end of her life, and I guess she's kind of like looking back on her life, and she's approached by this filmmaker who's doing a movie on the events that took place at the Riverton house, where a poet shot himself, and the only people who witnessed it were the 2 daughters that lived there. And so Grace was actually a witness for that. So this one is kind of like a confessional narrative, and just her recalling everything that kind of led up to this event. And it is kind of like Downton Abbey-esque, where she is a housemaid and later on a lady's maid, and just kind of the differences between the world upstairs and downstairs, and just kind of how they intertwine. And I found that to be so interesting. And like, this is the author's debut novel, and I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. It's not her best work. It doesn't live up to like The Secret Keeper or The Forgotten Garden in my eyes, but it was very well done, and you can tell it's good to see where she started from and how much her writing has improved. And this is not a bad book by any standard, it's just because I'm comparing it to those 2, but it's a very atmospheric read, and I could like picture myself in this world, and I like immersed myself in it. I think the only like con was that some of the characters were very, I want to say like one-dimensional. Like, I never got attached to them. I didn't really care much for how their futures panned out. I didn't really care much for them if they were like in peril. And I think that was a flaw, because I was so attached to some of her characters in her previous works. So that's why I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. Yeah, and like the end was a little bit kind of all over the place. It kind of like flashes forward to what happens like a day after the fact, and then it goes back to what was happening at the time. So yeah, that part I did find to be a little bit confusing, but overall, like I said, I really enjoyed this book, and yeah, it was really good. It filled a Downton Abbey hole in my life right now, because I'm trying to savor every last like episode because I love it so much. So that's it, guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know in the comments below if you've read any of these books or what you thought about them, or what are some of the books that you read this month. So yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I will see you guys next time. Bye, guys.